If you guys want to support Joell Ortiz and Illmind on this project named Human, the link will be in the description below. Go ahead and support, man. Buy the album. Then hip hop album review, Joell Ortiz and Illmind, Human. Before we get into the review, make sure you go to DEHH.com and support your boy, support your channel. We have fan funding. We also have t-shirts. Hey, look, subscribe, watch the channel, tell somebody else that's also supporting your channel. Not just money. So everybody that's talking shit about us begging, man, fuck all y'all, man.
All y'all motherfuckers, man.
All y'all motherfuckers.
All my fuck y'all's on staff, record label, and a motherfucking crew.
What that nigga C-Town said, nigga. What that nigga C-Town said. Now back to the damn review. Now before this album came out, I had no idea that they were collabing and making this album. But I did see on social media that during the listening session that it was getting rave reviews and there was a lot of people there. I was like, okay, I definitely fuck with Illmind. I've always fucked with Joell Ortiz and I've listened to a lot of his projects, man, and I always felt like a lot of the times he outshined the producer, and sometimes it was like that stereotypical New York stuff, and that's cool. And I fuck with Joell because you know we Spanish, so I stick with my Puerto Rican and Dominican and Cuban brothers, man. We all we all part of the same struggle. So I've always followed Joell just like mainly off of that. My boy Nigel put me on, and after that I was like, yo, this motherfucker can spit. This nigga's nice. So then when he got in Slaughterhouse, I'm going off. Let me go back to Human. The intro would definitely set off the tone. I like the fact that it was an instrumental by Illmind, mainly because the rest of the project, beat-wise, it didn't really go up and down. It was pretty much even keel. But the thing that I loved about that was that it was Joell that brought the emotions out in these tracks. So it was almost like being human, because pretty much everybody, your day-to-day life is pretty much the same, with a couple of different things that might happen that might make you turn up, might make you chill or relax. And that's what I really got off of this album, because the first time that I really heard Joell like turn up was on Little Piggies. How aggressive he was, I was just like, damn, I love that. And then also I love the track Bad Santa, because I think that was probably one of the deepest songs on here, because you know I don't have kids, I don't ever necessarily think about it, but I'm always intrigued to hear artists how their life is, and them being introspective, and them dealing with normal stuff that we all do, but we always put them in a different light. And for him to break down like, I'm not necessarily with baby moms, but now my son thinks that I'm just another, like a dude that he sees once a year with cool gifts. You know what I'm saying? You never really take that into perspective, and these are real struggles that he's going through. You know what I'm saying? Also Latino. How can I not talk about Latino? You got all four. Talk about that. Yeah, of course I had to. You know what I'm saying? Like Emilio Rojas, I've been on him for a little while. You know what I'm saying? I'm surprised he hasn't really gotten bigger, but I really like him on this because he spit straight out the gate. And then Christopher Rivers, if y'all ain't know, that's Big Pun's son. And listen to, and I caught him last year at the A3C. I think I was the only person to actually make that show, because he was one of the opening acts for the Locks. That motherfucker shut it down. And it's so crazy to me listening to him, especially on this track, because he sounds so much like his dad, but he doesn't. It's so like you hear Pun in him, but he is his own artist. And I like the fact that he's been able to do that. He killed his verse on this. Bodega Bams was alright, and Joell did his thing. And I also like the instrumental at the end that goes into Who Woulda Knew. New Era was dope. This whole project, honestly, there's nothing I would take off. There's nothing that I thought was whack on this. It's short, sweet, to the point, 11 total tracks, and I love it. And again, I really like it because it is human. I like, when I was listening to it and I finished it like the third or fourth time, I'm like, I really don't know what else he could have named this album, because it was really Joell Ortiz being introspective, giving you different glimpses of him and the shit that he has to deal with. And I like how he brought out the different emotions, even though the production on it wasn't, like I said, up and down. And I also like Illmind's production, because I always felt Joell never worked with a producer to really bring a lot out of him on a complete project. Joell was always an artist that I fucked with, but I was never truly a fan of. And if he makes more projects like this, I would be more of a fan of his shit. And yes, it bumps in the whip.
outside of the title, he kind of told you what the album is it was going to be about in the intro. He was like, I'm in one of the best groups of all time, according to him. We're fourth to that, but I am also an individual. And sometimes that get lost in everything else that I'm doing. And he picked one Beat Smith to work with, and I thought it was interesting the beat selection on this album, because it wasn't very, very aggressive. You know what I'm saying? It was more of the stuff that's kind of some of it was dark, some of it was definitely a little bit mellow. But overall, I like the beat choice, because I think what it did was it really put Joel in the forefront. You had a chance to really listen to what he was saying and some of the things that he was saying. He basically kind of went through, him, and initially I thought it was going to be about his life story, and I thought it was going to be that type of album, but it wasn't. It addressed certain parts of his life and things that he's had to deal with, as a rapper in this industry, and Bad Santa was definitely one of the standout tracks to me, when it just dealt with, his relationship with his son. And what I liked about that, and what I liked about some of the other tracks on here, is that it felt grown up to me. You know what I'm saying? And it felt like what rap, as you age in hip hop, could be. Like, it doesn't have to be like, all this turn up stuff, and I sell crack, I sell dope, this, that, and the other. Like, I'm grown, we all grown here. Like, you can rap and address certain storylines and topics that some of us can actually relate to. And it even,
Let me ask you about Bad Santa. How did you feel about Jared Evans? Because I'm a big fan of Jared Evans, and I really thought that he brought more to that track.
See, I don't think so. I didn't really pay that much attention to him for whatever reason. Like, the other track that I really liked on here was the one that was before that. Hold on just a second. Who would have knew? Like, I'm pretty sure that was Father Dude on the hook.
Yeah.
Man, he was killing that shit. Father Dude was killing that shit. Like, he brought life to that track, because the way that he addressed it vocally, kind of like in the background, but you can still hear him, and the way that he did his riffs, like, it really add a little bit extra to that song. And even some of the interludes, like when it went from one song to another, there were 2 or 3 on here that I thought were really, really good, that I wanted to hear as full beats. But overall, I liked his approach. I like that, he decided to basically, give you an album of him. It talked about his failed relationship, and then the way he told that story about how, things were good, and then now they're not so good, and then how that even led into Bad Santa was good. And then the outro was really good, how he kind of summed up, the whole album itself. And then, of course, Little Piggies, I definitely like that one. I love the aggressiveness on that one.
6'4".
6'4" was cool. New Era, like, he was like 7.5 fitted. Like, again, he gave you like immediately, like, he told you who he was. 7.5 fitted. This is a part of me as a personality. This is what I wear. So I thought all of that was cool, man. And then Joel has always been a really, really great lyricist, and nobody can ever take that away from him. If it wasn't, he wouldn't be in Slaughterhouse. But he was lyrical on this, but it wasn't to the point where it overshadowed some of the stories that he was trying to tell. So I thought that was really, really good, because
It wasn't forced.
No, it wasn't. I think he's talented enough. I think he's that good of an artist to be able to do that. Kind of going back to what you were saying before, like, you always felt that he overshadowed some of the producers. I don't think he necessarily did that. I think he was just really that good of a rapper that you always pulled to some of the things that he was saying. Because even some of the beats were really good. Joel just really fucking good.
He's commanding.
Yeah,
He is.
yeah. You're forced to listen to him. So, and that's why I like that he took this approach on this album, because, let's be honest, a lot of people know him as part of Slaughterhouse. So now he has a chance to put out an album, take advantage of the newfound spotlight, and put out this album and basically just kind of, address some of the things that he's been going with. So I thought it was great. I thought llmind did a good job. I thought Joel picked the right beats to fit some of the things that he was saying, because when I first put it on, it took me a while to get used to the production, because that wasn't what I was expecting to hear. But at the same time, I was listening to some other stuff, preparing for some reviews, so I had to clean my musical palette a little bit. And so once that kind of got back straight, I was like, okay, now we good. So and I've been playing it more and more and more. So definitely a great project from Joel, and I'm glad that we got a chance to actually sit down and talk about him as an artist instead of him as part of Slaughterhouse.
I agree. I mean, I really enjoyed his album. I think, and I'm glad he got, you know, someone from the same borough, Brooklyn, llmind, and I'm glad, you know, before, I think same thing with the Skies on Torre. There wasn't these beats. They still gave me that New York feel without the boom bap, too boom bappy sound. Like, I'm glad llmind gave him these type of productions for him to flow over. And you know, we've all said it before. Yeah, Joell Ortiz is a good enough lyricist to kind of weave and give you the different emotions that llmind is bringing you with the production. Because that's one thing I've always loved about llmind production as of late, is that he always have so much different textures through his production and so much emotion through his production that sometimes you be wondering. When I listen to some of his instrumental albums, I'm like, man, can the MC really flow over this? Like, it's so complex. So, you know, for Joell Ortiz to really deliver in his message and kind of be spitterific, as well as still give you emotions and storytelling and give you those imagery, you know, image about, you know, his son and the relationship. Who would have knew kind of gave me like a J.Cole feel for some reason. I don't know why. The hook did. It gave me like a J.Cole feel. I can hear like J.Cole with that type of hook. But yeah, Little Piggies, the Latinos joint. I don't know who was in that second. Was that Big Pun's the second verse off that one? Whoever was in that second verse, man, they
Was that Chris verse?
Yeah, I think that was Bodega Bands.
Oh,
yeah, Bodega Bands was second, Chris Rivers was third, and then Joel was last.
Whoever was in that second verse, they freaking murked that joint. Yeah, in the new era, it kind of, at first I was like, new era, but then I was like, oh yeah, he wears the Yankee fitted all the time. So then, you know, it took me like the second, third listening to me, like, oh, okay, cool, I get it. But yeah, overall, I really thought, you know, and y'all know how I am. I love 11 tracks. He giving you, like, I saw this coming because I follow llmind on Instagram. So like, I saw this album in the making, and it was coming. I just didn't realize it was gonna sound like this. I'm like FIFO, like I really don't have nothing negative to pull out of this really. I think Joell Ortiz took a time, you know. Because I think, what was his last album he came out with?
House Slippers?
Yeah,
I
think that was the last one.
2012? It's like 2-3 years ago. It was a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in this stage now where a lot of these MCs get that one producer and be like, yo, I'm about to go in and just make this album with you. I think that I'm glad to see that we're kind of getting into that phase again.
It's old school. It's kind of
yeah. It's like, I'm glad we're seeing a lot of MCs doing that now. Like, yo, let me find this one producer. You know, llmind, he's in the same borough, Brooklyn, bam, yo, hook me up with and they just made it work. I think, like I said, llmind was great with the emotion, and I think Joell Ortiz complemented that emotion well with the rhymes, and it executed well. So I love that album. This was great from the beginning to the end.
Before I had even known what this was, I was seeing the album cover floating around, and I was like, whatever. I didn't really check into it, but then I had seen something on YouTube that was talking about that Joel had a new album. I was like, okay, let me check this out. And I was pleasantly surprised. There was a time when Joel was he was killing every track he was dropping. Then it kind of felt like it seemed like he had something to prove to a lot of people. And I think that probably came from that whole label situation. Yeah. It seemed like after the Aftermath label situation, like he was really just going hard on every track and just like trying to prove, like, look, I'm a fucking rapper. I can rap my ass off. And it seemed like after the first Slaughterhouse album, it almost seemed like he didn't have anything to prove anymore, because he felt like, well, I made it, so I don't really need to do this anymore. And I'm not saying he fell off, he just wasn't rapping the way he was before. And that was the Joel that I really liked, that kind of like just going off on a track. He rapped kind of fast. You don't really get that on this album. What you do get is you get a Joel that's reminding you, like, my pen game is still on point. Like, I can still fucking rap my ass off. And I love this album. I think the beats fit him perfectly. I think maybe that's also part of the reason why he wasn't rapping that way. These beats didn't really allow that. These beats were all, in my opinion, fucking incredible beats, but they were all very mid-paced. There weren't really a lot of fast, like, let's get hype beats. And Joel rode these beats great. Now, you want to hear a motherfucker rap? Put on 6-4 and just sit back. Joel went off on that track. Like I said, I liked all the tracks. I wasn't really a big fan of Light of L. It wasn't a bad track, but it didn't really move me like that. But when it hit, I'm sorry, 6'4" was before that track. But either way, he was rapping his ass off, and that kind of reminded me of the old Joel, which in my opinion I haven't really heard that much of in a minute. But he was back to doing those kind of funny punchlines. You know, I can't really think of any right now, unfortunately.
What's the lyrics that we got in the quote?
I don't really. Oh wait, yeah. He had that one about these up and comers. These up and comers are what did he say? These up and comers are like summer. They're my offspring. I was like, okay, shit. There you go, Joel. But my favorite song on this whole shit, Little Piggies, and y'all just kind of glossed over. Yeah, Little Pig. Bruh, Joel has not sounded like this in a long fucking time. Actually, I don't think Joel has really ever sounded like this, because what I always loved about Joel was he was really funny, he was quick, and he was witty. I've never really put Joel in that mean category. On this shit, he sounded angry, aggressive, and mean. Just the way it started off. You motherfuckers ready? I'm walking through this bitch with my machete.
And I'm like, he lets it breathe a little bit. Then he lets it breathe. And then you're like, okay, yeah.
Man, that shit was. Joel is not usually like this. Like, we're used to him being funny and goofy and yawa. Even his yawa sounded mean on this album. Like, Joel, why are you angry all of a sudden? Like, you didn't used to be like this.
He's showing motherfuckers why his
pen game is serious.
Serious, man.
He showed him. And I think he did a great job with this album. I think he picked great beats from Illmind, and yeah, like you said, this album couldn't have been called anything else, because he was talking about himself, and he was talking about what he's gone through, and I don't know what else to say, bro. I'll be honest. When it hit Who Woulda Knew and Bad Santa, I don't think the album took a turn for the worse. It was just the album kind of took like a sharp right for a minute. Those songs weren't necessarily bad. I do think that maybe they should have been spaced out a little bit more.
Or a little bit higher in the album.
Two emotional tracks together. Right.
And maybe that's something he wanted to go for or something.
Wrap the album up with some emotional tracks. Maybe.
The album was real personal.
Right.
Oh yeah, true it was.
So maybe he just wanted to show at the end of the day, after Little Piggies and Latinos,
I'm
still a human.
Not soft.
So maybe that's what he was going for. Maybe that's what he was going. Even though I kind of agree with you, though, it should have been spaced a little different. But I mean, maybe that's what he was going for.
If you watching, I've always fucked with you, Joel. And this album is like really gonna, like, if you do more shit like this, I'll 100% be a fan. Not just for you, but also for the crew and everybody. Like this is what y'all can do. So why try to do something else when this is what you guys are experts at doing? So this is what I expect. This is what your fan base expects. We don't want you to change. We don't want you to conform. Do exactly what you do and get the best producers to do it, because Illmind's another dope producer, and I don't want to necessarily overshadow Illmind on this, because he is half of the album. You know what I'm saying? He teamed up, so I gotta throw some shine that way. And the production was great, man. Keep doing this shit. You definitely got a fan out of me.
Change is not always bad. I think when you change and do something like this, I think that's a good thing. And that's what you're able to do. You kind of evolved into a next level, kind of a transition, in your career to kind of put out more, mature music that I think as an adult and as a grown-up that I can listen to and relate to. And I think that's good. And I think that as we move forward in hip hop, can other rappers do that? But back to what you were able to do, I think you were able to do that and do it well. And this album was a really good album, and I like that you addressed some of the issues, and you showed that that you are a human, kind of going back to the album title, but that you are human, and that you are flawed as an individual. But and I think that's dope that you gave the rappers and your fans an inside look into basically your life. And sometimes we want to hear that. We want to hear those stories in addition to you being able to just rap your ass off. So shout out to you, shout out to Illmind on the production. B definitely highlighted some of that, and I think he was spot on. So hey man, just keep doing it, man.
Well, shout out to you for like we've all said, like having a good balance of, you know, being still spitterific, but still having an idea for an album and still executing it and coming up with good song structure albums as a spitterific MC. So shout out to you for that. Thank you for this wonderful project. Illmind, shout out to you on the wonderful production that you know, the soundscape you provided for this album. Also shout out to your website too, blackkids.com, for all the beatheads out there.
What is it?
Blackkids.com.
Black. Who? I can't understand you.
Black. BLAPKITS. Blackkids.com.
Oh, okay.
I know.
That's what he kind of like calls his drums, black
Okay.
drums or whatever. But yeah, you know, shout out for what you do for producers as well. But yeah, overall, there's nothing else I can say. Just, you know, I really appreciate the balance that you guys provided and everything else for this album. So cop it, support the artist.
I have to be honest, for a little while, I was a little bit disappointed with some of the stuff I was hearing from you. And I knew, the reason was, it wasn't like you were doing anything whack. It was just, I knew that there was more of this in you. And it almost felt like you wanted to do more of this, but for some reason you just weren't. I think this project is fantastic. I think you picked great beats, and I think you showed that you are not just a rapper, you're a songwriter. And I also find it interesting that you went over beats that I wouldn't have expected you to go over. These were very dark beats, and you've never, to me, come across as a very dark guy. You're usually that playful, happy, kind of goofy dude. Yeah. But this album, you were like, I'm talking about some real shit, so I need some real beats to go with my real shit, and you pulled it off great. So yeah, give me more albums like this, please. I'm actually really interested to see what you do next after this. So good job, you and Illmind. Illmind, you're a fucking beast, man. So yeah, appreciate it.
I guess